honor and pleasure to welcome three men that have become experts, kings of their industry, and are here to share their experience and wisdom with us. First, I'd like to bring to the stage Gary Vaynerchuk, followed by Frank Falcinelli and Frank Castronovo, the Franks.
Thank you so much. So glad to be back here again. Last year was a lot. How many people here?
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
By show of hands, how many people were here for the keynote last year? Very nice, bunch of new people. So it's great to see so many new faces. Last year was a blast. What I want to do is actually allow you guys to introduce yourselves. What I want to do with the conversation is really take it into brand, because I think watching this event and this space evolve, what I think a lot of people are going to inevitably understand is quite a bit of the things we all do are commoditized, but eventually brand becomes the differentiator. Obviously, you have to have a great product, and I think the gentlemen to the left and right of me have done a great job with brand in their business. Then I have a couple questions for them, a couple thoughts, and then very honestly, I want to open it up to a lot of Q&A today to bring as much value so people are getting their questions answered. So why don't you two ridiculously good-looking dudes introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. We're very happy to be here. My name is Frank Falcinelli, along with my partner here, Frank Castronovo. We're lifelong chefs, or I'm a lifelong chef as well, and restaurant operator of Frankie's Spuntino and Frank's Wine Bar in New York City and in Brooklyn. And we also have an olive oil brand, Frankie's Olive Oil and Green Gold Olive Oil. And
Yeah, that's what we're working on right now. And now we have a new pantry brand, which is with Gary and Green Street that you saw. I don't know if any of you had a chance to have lunch today. Does anybody try the cavatellis, the meatballs?
Seven people.
Thank you.
Seven, better than zero.
Yeah, and we basically cook everything with our olive oil.
So the reason I think it's really interesting to have you guys here is you've built an iconic East Coast restaurateur brand, and now you're extending that brand into this field in edibles. In a positioning that I saw at Pantry, and because I know it, because the Green Street guys are working on it, is kind of in a super premium for the space. But before we go into that, which is the crossover into this world, again, the luxury of being here last year, watching the space for the last year, going through it again today, when, as chefs, did you actually start thinking about the brand of yourselves or the restaurants? I'm going to assume that it wasn't right away. It wasn't the in vogue thing of somebody who was cooking to think about, or am I wrong? When did you first realize, wait a minute, the name of our companies, the name of the restaurants I open, the way we position ourselves, the Franks, as you're known in the food circles, how did that play out? How did brand enter your life?
we were thinking about brand actually pre-Frankie's.
Early on, very early on.
Really early on. We were exposed to different brands of clothing and restaurants and fashion and different things in New York. And when we decided we wanted to open a restaurant that was named after us, and Frankie's is plural, it's not possessive. His dad's name is Frank, my dad's name is Frank. We got a whole bunch of Franks going on, but
it's a lot of fucking Franks.
The thing that and the reason why we were thinking about brand is because in New York there's so much gray noise in the food space, and in the food space in Brooklyn and Manhattan, unless we really realize that if you didn't create a brand, nothing sets you apart from the other guy that is doing the same exact thing. So to punch through the noise, we really realized really early that we had to create iconic imaging with iconic product, and then back it up doing unique things in our space. So we thought about it. Was something that we really thought about. As a matter of fact, when we were designing the logo, it was something that it was we wanted something that when you looked at it, you said, "Oh, that's so familiar. I really remember. You're going to remember it. It's going to be something that's familiar and nostalgic and timeless." So it was something that we thought about really early on.
Yeah, like old clothing brands like Hermes. We took inspiration from things like that. Things that you want to have around for the rest of your life, and people always resemble and recognize.
The thing for this space, for a lot of you that are vertically integrated in building products, that when something comes this early, what's so exciting for me, maybe because I have so much context, and not only was that their ambition, but they pulled it off in a very competitive landscape like the Manhattan and kind of the New York metro food scene. Obviously, some of you may know, but for the ones that don't, I grew up in the wine business, and what I heard a lot of over the last year, and rightfully so, and this will make so much sense, is people taking a lot of pride in how good their product is. And a lot of people are really leaning into why theirs tastes better, or is more interesting, or quality control. What's different today in the cannabis industry than the wine industry of the 60s and 70s. I'm a guy who grew up in the wine business in the 90s, 20s, 2010s, and when I talk to the OG guys and gals of the wine business, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s into the early 90s, there was such thing as bad wine. You know, because of technology, Mother Nature fucked you up. And there were regions and wineries that struggled with bacteria or weather or things of that nature. Over the last decade, you may not like it, but the wine that is produced across the world now, it's hard to make terrible wine. It might not be your style, but in its quality control. The Manhattan food scene, if you made it there after a little while, your food was good. The variable difference between somebody's pasta, the floor was so high already. This industry, everybody's starting with such great science because it's 2019, that the variable difference, somebody might like your strain better or your brand, flavor better slightly, but the floor is so high. This is why this conversation was so exciting for me to bring this year, because I do believe that the brand variables are gonna super matter. Now, just so there's no confusion, if your shit sucks and your brand's fucking phenomenal, you're just gonna speed up the process of people figuring out that your shit sucks.
Very true.
But it is fun to have these guys here, because I do think that they've pulled many things off in their time around quality and brand. And I think this is a good segue to go into, only because, I've watched from afar, and then when me and Ben Leventhal started Resi, we got close and I got to know you guys. I know how many things have been thrown at you to extend your brand into. So many opportunities over the last decade. Why have you chosen to expand into this universe? Because again, the OGs in this room are gonna think, well, because it's the gold rush and there's all these dollars, which makes sense, it's the right way to think. I just happen to have knowledge that there's been other gold rushes, like doing TV or pots and pans or QVCs, things that you've passed on in the past. Why does this feel natural to you guys?
Because we believe in it, because we've been involved in the industry for, as pot smokers for 40 years. So it's not like something that we didn't, we're trying to make money off of or get involved in at this point. It's passion. We wouldn't be successful with what we do if we didn't have passion in our food and the products that we stand behind. So if you don't have passion in your food or anything, whatever it is, if you're making music or clothes or, anything, it's not going to be successful. And we are passionate about the food we do. We are passionate about this too. I like the THC. I like the CBD stuff. I've been using it for many years, and I hopefully continue to keep using it and have a brand with it now.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this space, and which I find a lot of similarities in the olive oil space. When we were trying to make it with the olive oil, like we opened Frankie's, and 2 years later we launched Frankie's olive oil. And I don't know if anybody knows how hard it is to sell olive oil. it's virtually like selling like
Yeah, so-
sand in the desert, and
Talking about OGs, you're talking about the mafia there. It's like
and
in olive oil.
Like you guys are lucky
And
to
it
be
w-
alive, or
it was a real, no, but what it was a real litmus test, is if to the test of the brand, because you may think, okay, I got 6 million people and I'm selling pasta too, that's great, and then I'm gonna step it up and I'm gonna go into Whole Foods, and you go into Whole Foods and they ragdoll you, and they ragdoll you and they ragdoll you, and we managed to maneuver through that as an agricultural product, and this is where the similarities of THC and marijuana and CBD. It's an agricultural product without an identity, and it also has a really weird stigma, very much like
olive oil does?
No,
no,
marijuana.
THC.
Sorry, I'm just
So
trying to follow along.
there's a massive opportunity in branding. Like if you look in the grocery aisle, or you go into a vegetable aisle, there's only one branded piece of produce in the agricultural product in the produce aisle, and that's Driscoll strawberries. And they've done an amazing job of branding themselves. There's so many people trying to struggle because when you
What about Chiquita bananas?
They're cornering the market.
Yeah,
Right? I fucking
Don't-
know Chiquitas.
yeah, Chiquitas, but everybody recognizes
Yes, Driscoll's is
but
crushed berries.
not many. So when we saw the challenge of getting in there with an agricultural product and branding it and putting it on the shelf, so we went to 1 store and 2 stores and 3 stores and 5 stores. What's the litmus test? 6 years, 7 years. Now we're global with Whole Foods, and we're the #1 olive oil in Whole Foods. So so what's really, really interesting for
So you
us,
guys are rich,
for
or?
us is the Franks. It's going down. We're about to do a price drop also. Go to Whole
Pick
Foods
up your
right
olive
now.
oil now, kids.
No, what's interesting about Pantry is we can take in terms of branding and this industry, is if we can be successful in breaking out of all of the gray noise and popping through and saying, oh, this is an incredible brand. I think that's something to be really proud of, and to be successful in doing that would be amazing.
Speaking about brand, and then I'll give you a chance to say what Pantry is, because we haven't defined it. Outside of cannabis and olive oil, what are your 3 or 4 favorite brands through the history of your life?
That's a tough one. Like fashion
What-
brands, probably.
Like WWF or
No,
like
I mean-
Nike or
I mean,
My
the
friend just got on board
NHL.
really?
Yeah.
Probably Hermes is one of my favorite brands. Supreme is an amazing brand. That's an incredible example of somebody really just taking a brand and just working with everybody that they can find.
How about for you?
In terms of brands, if you want to go high end, Laura Piano. If you want to go every day, I love New Balance and Nike. Levi's is still an old favorite.
Levi's is great.
Like,
Amazing.
just simple stuff that everyday use. I love. I'm a Colgate guy now. I was a Crest guy before.
Toothpaste actually fascinates me. It's a space I've been looking at. So Pantry, what is it for everybody that doesn't know?
It's a Frank. Why don't you tell us? Why don't you see what Pantry is?
He's barely holding on. I don't know if you're.
No, he's.
Yeah, it's been a long day of THC, but a great one.
Pantry is a what we hope to accomplish with Pantry is a food company that has CBD and marijuana, THC, a food company. So we're trying to get away from the gummy bears and the sweet stuff and get more into actual integrity-based food products, or whether it be our olive oil infused with CBD, or getting into baked goods, or getting into other different food products that's backed by chefs.
Savory foods as well.
Yeah, savory foods.
How long does it take to develop in the level of quality and integration that you're looking, like from inception to we want to do this around XYZ product to on shelf? What is the time cycle?
It depends on the product for sure. It depends on how much money you have to invest in the product. I think if you can accelerate the speed of that tremendously by having more money to to invest into the initial investment. But food products definitely have like at least a few months because you need to harvest them, you need to test them and work them and figure out what they're going to be done. Then you got to do the branding and the marketing behind it, which is so important.
Yeah, and we're pretty fortunate because we're lifelong chefs, so we have over 35 years of experience each. So we both combined have a large canon of recipes that we're going to start really developing, applying the THC or the CBD to, and seeing what works. Because and I've been saying this all day to different people I've met, a lot of nice people here also. But THC and CBD doesn't belong in every single product. It's like, if you looked at alcohol, you wouldn't put alcohol in a loaf of bread, and you wouldn't put alcohol. I'm just saying it doesn't belong in every place, and there should be some integrity in it, and there should be some proper curation.
And have you already started testing things where it's been clear to you that on idea phase you thought it could work, but you've tasted it through and you're like, oh fuck, this tastes terrible?
No, I mean we've been playing with it a little bit. We've been playing it with THC for years. The CBD thing is pretty new to us, so we're kind of excited to get not into the lab, but to actually get some quantity of it and start developing some stuff.
I got one more question, but who's got the mic? Because we're going to open up Q&A, and obviously anywhere you want to go with the Q&A for any of the three of us, I'll be prepared to answer any marketing and branding operations questions. You've got the mic? Okay, no problem. So let me just ask this one last question. And yeah, why don't you take his and I'll pass to the right. Why don't you take his? To the craft of cooking, I think it's super important to understand origin stories. You just mentioned it. You've been playing with, probably on a personal level, with cannabis. When was it cliche in the things that you were putting it in, cookies and things of that nature? And when, given you have so much pedigree in cooking, where and what did you start exploring with it, and where has it played best in some of the savory foods that you've tried it with?
I mean, I love making teas with it. I love using it to like a dry spice on top of food, crackers. Like if you're making a spice mixture, just have it dry in there and just a little bit on top. In anything with butter, I mean, everybody knows that. It's mostly that's like old hippie style, just making butter and then just using the butter to do anything. And I think that's a lot of people make cookies and brownies and all sweet stuff, but I like to put it in pasta, or you can put it in anything that you're using butter. Just I think that the trick and the thing that's what's now happening is the dosage, is how you're able to break it down to like from 2 milligrams to 10 milligrams, and knowing how to portion it out with the food so that people, when they eat it, because a lot of people that have a really bad trip or they don't understand what happens when I eat, like I can't do edibles, I don't like edibles. It's changing now very rapidly, but I think over the years it was always like this misconception of how edibles react to your body. And I think what now is happening is with the space is that it's so dialed in, and if you can take that and cook with it and make savory food, I mean that's the trick.
Got it. All right, let's open it up to Q&A. Who's got questions?
Hey guys, thanks so much for sharing all of your collective knowledge with us today. My name is Liz Groh, and I just have a question about your consumer. Who is it? I love your olive oil personally, but who's your new consumer? What does he or she look like?
We're hoping that it's the Frankie's customer. When we opened Frankie's, we went with a really egalitarian approach where we're open all day, and but the prices are fair, and it's a good wholesome meal. It's a lot of nutrition and organic within the structure of the Italian canon that we've chosen. So we're trying to capture. We've always tried to capture grandmas, construction workers, actors, directors, producers. It really doesn't matter, because who doesn't like a nice bowl of gnocchi? Who doesn't like? So if we approach that in the cannabis space, or in the pantry space, hopefully we can gather or capture the whole market. So whether you're of legal age and 99, everybody in between.
Great.
Hi, my name is Amy.
Hi.
I'm a founder of TerraTech, crazy ones who went public first. My question is how long you see the dispensary retail model lasting as specialty retail. Obviously, coming from alcohol, it's available everywhere. So what's your kind of take on that?
I think it's a process. I think the next, half decade will be the evolution of what we all know. But over time, I think the biggest conversation in the room is I think there's way too much assumption to federal legalization because this is just historical into what everybody thought was going to happen with liquor. And we're here 90 years later, 80 years later, post-prohibition. It is still state by state regulated. So if I'm a betting man, I think that, the state by state reality will be in play probably in perpetuity. I really do believe that. And so I think that once you understand that, there is a lot of variables that go into that because states evolve themselves just like the country does. And so I do think that people that are going for it and are really trying to win at large scale will need to diversify. I think that, we take things for granted. We think California is going to be like this forever. New York's going to be like that forever. But I think things evolve, and it also depends on your ambitions. Even the way I just answered that question, I always think in forever until I die. I want to do my thing. Some people may just want to flip their thing. As you know, there's a lot of fast money that's going to be thrown around for the next decade, and this reminds me so much of social networks and search engines, and there's so many people that are going to be running to this space. But I think to answer directly, I think quite a while. I think what you're going to see though is players like the wholesale liquor industry that become national, and they'll use their scale and leverage of being in 27 states instead of one to have a competitive advantage. And that's where people need to be thoughtful. And that's why for the people here that just want to build a nice business and a good one that can, that they can always rely on, it's why I'm so passionate about brand. Because brand's the only protector to lots of money and lots of scale. And so that's why I think it's very, very important for a lot of, not knowing everybody's ambition, but recognizing 90% are unlikely to be in 40 different states at scale. I think the theme of this conversation and where I want the Q&A to go is brand is your ultimate protector. And so I think quite a while.
Hey, Gary, this is for you. Before I go into the question, I just want to say, before I was in the cannabis industry, I actually had a grown-up job, and I was a teacher, and I was a public high school teacher.
I think this is a more grown-up job.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead.
My last year, I taught continuation high school, which is actually students that are right on the verge of dropout. And I just wanted to give you credit because a lot of these students that have gone, you don't get to that place by actually being stupid or anything like that. You've probably gone through some shit, right? So, but a lot of them pointed to you as an inspiration for them and gave them a lot of hope to be successful, even though they're not successful in school. So
Thank you.
So the question I have, so I'm with Dom Pen. We are one of the biggest disposable vape pen brands in the state. And obviously, as you know, on social media, you can't market paid marketing with cannabis. But for example, I got this hoodie, which has been getting a lot of compliments today. It says Future Weed. People are like, oh, it's a dope hoodie. So the question I have is, how would you be able to capitalize on branding? Can you use stuff like clothing to start promoting a cannabis brand? You're not selling the products. Like, how would you go about on that route?
So I'm glad you brought this up because it gives me a platform to bring it up. The amount of people in this industry that cry about not being able to run Instagram ads is maybe the most laughable thing I've ever seen in business. Stop fucking crying. There's a lot of things you can't do in a lot of things. Like, for everybody who's so frustrated that you can't run Facebook and Instagram ads, how about the fact you're in a business where everybody loves the fucking product? Olive oil's great and all, but nobody here is super, there's a very small percentage of people. But I mean that, and I know that because where I'm going with this is if everybody took the energy of trying to start up another Instagram account that's going to get shut down and play cops and robbers, instead of dealing with the realities of that restriction, because this is the industry you chose, then you start getting into apparel. Then a bunch of you came up to me during today. Last year when I was here, I was talking about podcasts. You control the media. Several of you have gone down that route, right? And that's worked for you. So for me, live events, you can still hack Instagram at scale because influencer marketing is completely there, and a lot of you are doing that. Apparel works. And then I just think it's about producing content at scale. And whether that's, YouTube or LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn is a super, back to audio and podcasting last year worked for a bunch of you. When I come back here next year, I have a funny feeling a couple of you are going to grab me and talk about how LinkedIn worked for you. I think LinkedIn's a super interesting place. But this is organic warfare, right? For everybody in this industry, the platforms are super interested in your money. They're just navigating through the legal ramifications of this industry. And so it's not like they don't want your fucking money. They want it. And so that will play out over time, but I think apparel, I think original content, I think micro event marketing, right? Especially when you're fortunate enough to be in California and other places. So I think there's a lot of hacks to go about it. But yeah, I think, apparel has clearly been something that a lot of people have been flirting with in this space. I think podcasting needs to be something way more people need to go into, and the energy of podcasting, which is original media that you distribute on the internet itself, including straight up going old school and just having a website and getting people to go to it. That's your shit. And so do that.
It's your boy. I've been harassing you all day.
You've been giving love all day. I appreciate it. I'm flattered.
Because I appreciate you, man. Like the brother said back there, I mentor youth in the city of San Francisco, man. And you made such a great impact on my life that I shared it with them. So it's just flowing and flowing and going, man. You touching people that you never even knew. And I'm from the hood, too. I told you that. So now, the question I have for you is about the podcast, because I can run my mouth all day long, but I needed some direction on what the podcast should be about. And I kind of told you my story. Should it just be like about my life, about going to prison and changing my life, and now being a mentor, a cannabis equity advocate, about to open up my store in San Francisco.
And after
everybody,
you tell that story, because you can only tell that story so much, then 44 episodes later, it should be interviewing somebody. It should be the story about you eating a mango yesterday. I mean that though. People are just interested in people. The number one thing I think about with content is the truth. People just like the truth, and your truth is different than my truth. There are always thematics, but the context, right? Like the context underneath. Like today has been a very special day for me. Obviously, a lot of people have come up to me from last year's talk or in different places and just the nature of this industry. I think a lot of people come from some different hard places. Everybody's saying the same thing, but everyone's got their version of it. And what I think is, take the cannabis industry out of the picture for a second. For 3 people that have operated, we're envious of this era of the cell phone and the internet at scale. The speed in which you can change the narrative of your life is remarkable because of this. Guys, every single person has a phone on them right now that is a more powerful computer than Ronald Reagan had to run the free world. But you have to understand that, it's crazy. If you just change the perspective, and it just opens up, and back to that perspective, most people think that other people are not interested in their shit. The reason most people don't post is why would anybody care? Right? My big thing is, if you just document it for your great grandkids to listen to in 70 years, that's enough of a reason to put out content and put out a podcast. If nobody ever listens, let me promise you somebody who lost both of his grandfathers before he got to know them, I would have listened, and so you should just be putting out content for your legacy, and you're going to really enjoy having it when you're 99. And then if something good along the way happens for your business, then that's just an extra bet.
Thank you. Great question. My name is Ezra Herback. Thanks for everyone who's here. Thank you to you 3. My question is, how are you guys going to start incorporating your brand with voice and differentiating. Is it going to be sound? Is it going to be cliche phrases? I'm sure Gary has a lot to say.
Have you, maybe because I've been answering a lot of questions, I'll integrate you guys and I will add something. Have you started thinking about sound or voice, whether it's Alexa or Google Home or any of, in content, or even maybe the way you guys think about playlists within your restaurants, or how much has sound or voice played into your business conscious, or is it just starting to kind of hit your radar the way it is for many of us?
I think we've always had sound as an integral part of our whole ethos. We're one of our proudest moments was Neil Young coming into our restaurant and saying, "I've never heard music like this in a restaurant before." Wow. So, and it's we've always gone for a certain edge of what inspired the artist that inspired the artist. So, what is this the cover of? What is that the inspiration of? For a different artist. So if you like Bob Dylan, what inspired Bob Dylan? If you like the Levin Brothers, what and in all genres. So we think about it. We think about it as a major landscape of our places.
I love it. One thing I love to tell everybody all the time is, like, watch what I do, not what I say. Probably over the last 6 months, you've noticed that if you follow me, in the first 3 seconds of every Instagram video, I have that sound. I don't think that everybody's going to go out and spend $50,000 to $500,000 right now to go build an Alexa skill or a Google Home skill, because most people aren't using those devices at the scale that they will in a decade anyway. But I do think that every one of you should give a lot of thought for every brand in here on what's the 3-second sound. One of the great advantages of being East Coast is we had a store called PC Richards, and PC Richards had a whistle, which is like
jingle.
That's right, a jingle. So the old radio jingle, right? And that kind of whistle that PC Richards had, I'll never forget it. I was at a Jets game in the stadium, and during, when it went to commercial timeout and the teams were switching, the whistle played in the stadium. And as a marketer, even as a kid, I was pretty young, I remember thinking, ooh, that's a good deal, because everybody knows what that whistle was. And then later, and especially now, I'm like, oh, okay, if everybody here has a sound, you can get that sound off in 2 or 3 seconds. In the world that we all live in, as you guys know, you watch these videos, a lot of times you're only watching the first 5 or 6 seconds, but if you can keep establishing the sound of your brand, everybody here cares about the logo and works on the logo for 6 fucking months. Everybody here thinks about the colors and all these things. Meanwhile, the far majority of the content you're gonna be putting out is video. And I think you should be thinking very heavily about what is the 3-second jingle or sound that represents your brand, and pound that in the consciousness of the consumer, and then use it. That's my tip.
Hey, Gary and the Franks, thanks so much for doing this. My name is Greg. I make cannabis art, and my question for all of you guys is, how can we that are just really in love with the plant and the culture behind it, use brand to protect our companies and what we're trying to accomplish from the pending capital onslaught?
When you say the cap, I want to make sure I understand. First of all, is that a picture of me?
Yeah, it is. You want me to bring it up?
Yeah, get it up here. I want that shit. Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, grab that mic, because I don't want you to leave real quick. So when you say the capital onslaught, are you just worried about big business entering?
I'm worried about what it's going to do to the culture and the industry.
It's going to change it.
Of course, the change in the market is inevitable.
That's right.
My question is, how can we try to maintain as much of the authenticity and the drive that has gotten cannabis to where it has been without,
I get it.
How do we keep true to ourselves with using brand to do that?
So I think the answer to that question is by your personal actions, right? Like, for example, right now we live in a world where the far majority of people are more interested in spitting hate and negativity on social networks. So what do I do about that? I spit positivity and optimism and practicality. I don't go and try to debate people that are spitting negativity. And so I think the reality is through execution. I mean, look, I don't think there's anybody here naive enough to not know that the Disneyification, the capitalist sophistication, like the maturity of this space, like what the cannabis industry looks like in 35 years is gonna look very, very different. In the same way that the fucking bootleggers from the 30s and 40s think fucking Tito's vodka is a piece of shit. Do you understand? This shit's inevitable. I think if it matters to you ideologically, you just don't sell out your morals and your passion, and you just execute. For other people, they're here. I mean, there's many people sitting here because they see the financial gains. Other people because they're in it for the art. And I don't think it's our job to judge people. That's their life. They need to do what they're doing. But your ability to stay true to what you're about is 100% in your control, my man.
Thank you.
Yo, what up? Hey, Gary. I'm here with Viola. We're started by Al Harrington. I know you know who he is.
I know Big Al.
Yeah, Big Al. He's here tomorrow, too, so you guys should check him out. He's speaking.
He's a New Jersey basketball legend.
Yeah, bro, you know.
I know exactly who Al Harrington is.
Yeah, he'll be here tomorrow. I just wanted to say I've been consuming your content like crazy lately, and it's literally changed my whole perspective on like life and everything. And I just wanted to say I love you, and I appreciate the
I love you too, bro.
Thank
you.
you. Hey, shout out to D-Rock, too. Shout out to D-Rock. Love you, bro.
Great question.
Thank you, bro.
Hey guys, thank you for your time. Okay, so my question is, I'm 29 and I just started my business, I'm in the phase of building my brand, getting ready to launch my brand. And I'm interested in the cannabis industry because I'm very interested in the wellness aspect. I really care about the therapeutic aspect and helping people and providing natural alternatives to healing. I'm a nutritionist, and my question is, what wisdom do you have for somebody who's in the very beginning, just getting ready to launch?
Can you guys, hey Franks, can you do me a favor? Because I think this will be very valuable, and I don't know the answer to this. Where were you in your career at 29 years old? Remember?
Yeah, I was a chef of a restaurant in Europe. And I was, pretty much at the top of being a chef, working for somebody, and I realized that I wouldn't be able to do it if I stayed in Europe. So I came back to New York, where I was from, and that's when I basically started thinking about opening up a restaurant with Frank.
And for you?
I had just opened up a restaurant lounge in New York, which was the first of its kind of that era, called Mumba, and I was being inundated with celebrities on a daily basis. it was bananas.
Yeah. All right, so that didn't work out for me. But I was working in a liquor store in New Jersey. My point that I was hoping, but these fuckers, what were you doing at 29? Every celebrity wanted to fucking talk to me. I think what caught my attention and why I asked them that question was you started it with the preface and the context of being 29. Like, I'm just massively passionate in getting you to understand that you haven't even fucking started living your life. And when you actually believe that, starting at ground zero, look, your premise is huge. I believe the health benefits are disproportionately fascinating from a financial and a rewarding standpoint to the recreational aspect, though I think the recreational aspect is amazing, and I think drinking a beer and having a glass of wine is amazing, but like there's some significant shit that's gonna go down with this product, and there are things that this product is so disproportionately capable of helping, where people are using much worse substances to address whatever pain they're dealing with mentally or physically. That is going to be a space that will continue to evolve over the next 100 years of your life. And so as long as you start with the point of, the wisdom is, if you realize that you were a real fucking kid and just starting your life, that you would be far more successful because you would take the stress out of trying to accomplish something in the next 36 months instead of the next 36 years. That's the wisdom. Just take it slow, but like you're gonna go in the right place, because I believe that the health benefit and the people that understand the body and things of that nature are gonna have a lot to say. And the answer is, put out content. Put out content. It's always the answer. Your hypothesis. The thing that people are scared of is putting out content when they don't fully know. But I think authentic content can come in the form of, I'm just getting into it. My early intuition is. You don't have to say, this will cure that. I don't know if any of you follow my personal trainer, Jordan Syatt Fitness. Like, he just did something where he went into a GNC and put him on blast because had a hidden camera, and they're just giving bad advice about detox tea and all sorts of false bullshit information. People are so stressed to thinking they want to know everything that they're fucking making up shit. You can put out content every day if it starts with, I'm curious about, or I'm gonna go on a journey to figure out if, or there's something in my gut that tells me, not this shit solves that. Got it?
What's up, Gary? All right. My name's Sam Patel. First time I ever talked into a mic, but I met you a couple times. Met you the first time last year at the first one. Thanks to Joe, thanks to Rama, everybody. I mean, as soon as I heard that you had bought into Green Street, I knew that the path that I'd taken for the last 2 decades was the right decade to be in it now. Because, man, I just want to say thank you. Like, you have put my perspective and my confidence back on track, because I've been in this industry now for 20 years. I have a manufacturing distribution license. We've created a brand. Like, we've pivoted like 3 or 4 times, right? So I come from the old school illegal days to what we see in here, which is absolutely amazing. Like, this just blows my mind. But I wanted to be the first one to ask you a question, and I'm glad that I'm this far in because I got to kind of hear what everyone else was saying, and it really put like a perspective on. I have a relationship almost with every story in here because I've been in it for as long as I have. I feel from the old days to the branding legal days, and it's amazing to like. I drove here from LA, got up this morning, had a flat tire, went and rented a car and drove because I'm so busy running my business that I didn't even know if I was going to be able to make it. But after coming last year, I was like, there's no way I'm missing it. I walked in here at 4 o'clock, but I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because what you've done for me and my family now is just, I drive a lot in LA. I started listening to your content maybe like 9 months ago. And instead of doing anything else, because I'm on the road all the time, I've been hearing your keynotes. I've been hearing pretty much everything you've been doing. And it allowed me to make the parallels of all of these the wine industry, all of these other industries. Even, I'm from Indiana originally. My parents are Indian. I know you've got some background with growing up with some Indian kids. Yep. I'm the same age as you are. So what you've seen for the last, I got in this business in '96. And what you've seen and what I've seen in parallel is like, man, we could have been homies when we were little kids. Like, my parents owned a Dunkin' Donuts for 20 years. You know, it's like typical Indian, traditional, Gujarati. Yep. And obviously my parents wouldn't approve of what I'm doing like back then. But now I was able to, about 4 years ago, actually tell my dad that this is the industry I'm in, and he looked at it like alcohol now that it's legal. So the question I wanted to ask, or maybe get... Sorry, man. I'm not even thinking that there's anyone else in here. Like, I apologize to everybody in here. I'm like, it's just like, this is the first time that I get to like just talk directly to you. I have a manufacturing distribution permit. I don't have outside funding. We've been doing this on our own. We created a brand called Oasis 6 years ago. We were one of the first companies on the market with a vape pen. And since then, we've been looking at doing all of these other products, but the regulation had us off the market for the last 9 months. Now we're jumping back in the market 9 months later. The scene has changed very much, right? There's so many vape pens out there that even though we've been around for this long, it's kind of hard to just get everything going again. And everybody that has a new brand, anybody that's coming out with any kind of product, they have to go now and compete with shelf space of really well-funded companies that all have, you know, I mean, good products. What kind of advice do you give to somebody like myself and everyone else, not only been around for a short time, but a long time?
The number one thing, first of all, thank you for your question and the vibes you gave. It's crazy. Literally, right before I took stage, one of the things that always fascinates people when they get close to me is I do all my own social, right? Like I posted the post that I just posted on Instagram right before I came on stage, and it says something to the degree of, anything that happened yesterday has no impact on tomorrow. You have to let go that you were in for 6 years and then you were off the market for 9 months. Once you do that, I promise you'll do what you did the first time, and you'll just execute and play tortoise versus hare. When I started my .com, wine.com got $123 million in funding. I had $37,000 in marketing, right? I just built. I just stayed patient. It hurts when you think you perceive that you had an advantage by being first 6 years ago, but you lost it by regulation. And that part is the fucked up part. Bro, do you know how many of these people that are super well-funded are gonna go directly out of fucking business? Do you know how many fake entrepreneurs I met here today? Do you know how many of these well-funded companies are gonna spend their money on dumb fucking executions and marketing and events and other dumb shit? Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you're gonna spend it well. What are you gonna do? You're gonna do what you always did. Slow and steady, execute, build a brand, bring value to the people that are trying to put your product in their stores, build awareness around its brand. The end. Do not let outside forces dictate anything that you're thinking about. Patience. Josh.
All right, this is working. Hey, nice to see you guys. My name is Justin, and I work with North Star Distro, one of the largest distributions out here. And just recently seeing your content and everything, kind of like, I feel like a lot of people quit their jobs. But definitely that's something I did and got into this business probably 4 or 5 years ago. And so I started a show. Please check it out, The Unbiased Bud Show. I just talk about cannabis products and stuff like that, and started a podcast off of what you were saying. But my question is, and I think everybody in this room wants to know, is like, what is your arsenal of apps that you use? I know one of them was Anchor. I got on that right away, so I think that's something we would like to know.
Yeah, so if you're trying to start a podcast, there's an app called Anchor that I talked about last year. People always thought I was involved or investor. I wasn't. I just wanted to be right, and I was. Spotify bought it, and it's a great app. And if you don't have production people or studio time, it's literally you download Anchor. It's an app on your phone, and you can record your podcast. There's a little setup in the upfront, but once you're done recording it, you hit a button, and it distributes it to Spotify, Apple, all those things, like DistroKid for music people, if you know that world. And so, I don't have any secret fucking arsenal of apps. Like I use all the same shit everybody else does. It's what I fill the platforms with is what matters. Everybody starts with 0 followers, and everybody's got the same apps that everybody's on. It's what you fill it with. The biggest difference between me and the far majority of the market is every time I put out a piece of content, I literally, through my brain, in my fucking soul, think, what's this gonna do for them? 99% of people when they post think about, what's this gonna do for me? That's the fucking game. How many likes am I gonna get? How many t-shirts am I gonna sell? Who's gonna see this that's gonna feel cool for me? everything's about me, me, which is why everything seems the same, which is why every fucker is sitting in a swan in a pool in the Hamptons. It's like, it's all the same shit. Fucking flowers in the fucking hair at Coachella, fucking gold fake fucking watches, jumping fences to take a photo at the fucking private plane place. It's all the same shit. It's me. The second you don't think that way, the second everything changes. And growing up in restaurants and retail stores where you serve is an incredible framework. And I got lucky that I went through those experiences before this world came, because it became my framework. And man, I think everybody should work at a restaurant or a store for 2 years. It's a foundational advantage.
Okay, we're going to do one more question, guys.
Hi, I'm Leslie Peterson. I actually don't have a question, and I'm actually not even in this industry, but I do banking, and I actually have a banking solution for your industry, which, if you need...
Which sounds like you're in the industry.
Well, I guess, huh? But anyways, I actually just wanted to comment on the gentleman who had the T-shirt of his face on it. I'm trying to keep the authenticity of the air and of the industry going, and it was perfect of you saying, you do it. There's only one way to do it, and that is if you do it. And what I wanted to share with him and other people that are thinking the same thing is other people will get inspired by you keeping the authenticity. Because it's like the old 30s and 40s, you know, we love old school music. It's the people that play it today that are helping the new generation actually hear it. And then anything that you communicate, what you were ending on, coming from the heart, that's the only way to live, and it's the only way to run a business, because this era is really an entitled era. And so just come from the heart.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, last question.
Oh, sneak one in.
Gary, I just got to say thank you for being out here, man. It means the world to me. My name is Fabian. I'm the owner of TG Genetics and the host of Propagating Purpose. The question is for all us real grassroots outlaw era, the ones that have been doing this 10 years, the ones who went to prison for this. When you were doing wine, I was doing time for this. Those who get up on the ridge and ate ramen and fucking mayonnaise every night. We call that hillside Alfredo. For all those motherfuckers, I know a lot of real motherfuckers in here who did this all on their own, right? And we realize now, if we want to play in this game, I retired because I couldn't play in the game financially. That's my bad. I made fucked up moves. But for all my boys that are still trying to make it, for all us who've been down too long for this shit, we know now that we have to take on outside finances, right? We know that we need investors to play in the game.
Maybe. If you want to succeed in what you consider to be the game right this minute. I'm going to say it one more time for all the youngsters in the back that didn't hear me the first time. Every industry during times of explosion, when the economy is macro good, thinks they need to take money, but then the economy softens and they're over leveraged, and those companies go directly out of fucking business.
So I understand, and my question is, when we get in front of that moment, how do we protect our brand? How do we not get it stolen from us? How do we make sure that
by not taking the money?
I never sold out my brand or my fucking story.
And so
but my point is, when we get to that,
how
how do all these guys make sure that their best interest is involved and they still keep ownership of their brand?
By owning 51% of the business.
All right.
You know, by having that, or, and I'm going to say it because it's really important, because you're bringing up a tremendous energy, and this happens in so many industries all the time. What everybody in here who's an OG or new is facing is a very hot industry about to explode even more during an incredibly frothy economy where money's being thrown around left and right. This happens. This happened in Silicon Valley in the early 2000s. Everybody was a fucking millionaire until they weren't, right? And like, you know, people are getting 5, 10, 15, 20, $30 million valuations on a name and one license in this industry right now. It's because there's too much money in the system, because we didn't pay the piper in 2009. We should just be getting out of a recession. Instead, back to the young lady's point, we are living in the greatest entitlement era ever in America, because we're on a 70-year run. We had like a 5-second hiccup in 2008 and 9, and everybody's confused about the merit of it. There's 2 ways to do it, bro. 1, negotiate a deal that doesn't make you lose the leverage of your business, back to my 51%, or just be a tortoise. There's a lot of fucking rabbits running around right now. Be a tortoise. Stay true, do your thing. It's your passion. You weren't in cryptocurrency 6 months ago and in social media 2 years ago and 5 years ago in real estate. How many people are in this industry right now that are just jumping to the next hot thing, right? So if you love it so much and like there's some real passion to the OG shit, you could just stay slow. Your success doesn't have to be measured by somebody else's bigger success. If you're putting food on the table and you're enjoying what you're doing, I mean, that's just literally my blueprint. Like, you know, I've been doing my shit for a very, very, very long time. If I'm having my moment now, I understand that, but that's only because I didn't pander to the, you know, somebody like me 9, 10, 11 years ago could have raised a $200-300 million fund on the back of this stuff, but I didn't want to be an investor. I didn't want to be VC. I didn't want to take the money and take, you know, because I didn't see my self-worth or my happiness predicated on making $25 million a year by investing in other companies. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. My fucking ROI and reward is what you whispered in my ear an hour and a half ago, or what my man said, or what he said. And so there was no way for me to do that being a venture capitalist. So I don't know who's telling everybody in here that they have to take money. That's what it feels like, because there's concern and there's complete misunderstanding by human beings of how much abundance is in the system. There could be 27 brands in here that become billion-dollar brands. That's not taking money out of your pocket. And so people, you know, so I know it feels it. I get, oh man, do I get it? Because I'm in a lot of businesses early on, and this is the same shit. This is the same shit I saw in e-commerce in 1999, and the same shit I saw in social networks in 2005 and 6. Like, it's changing now. I mean, this is as big as fucking, like, the Twitter and Facebook conferences were just 15 years ago. Just like what we just said earlier, like, you don't have to take the money. You can, and you better negotiate a deal that doesn't make you lose the leverage, or you can just stay really slow, tried and true, and when shit hits the fan in 2023, send me an email and thank me very much for being a tortoise, not a rabbit.
And I think with those wise words, we're going to wrap it up. So let's give a big round of applause. Gary Vaynerchuk and the Franks.
Thank you.